Good morning. Today we are starting a new topic, it's resonator. And if you go through DM Pujar's book, it's in chapter 6. So since it has similarities with the transmission line or guiding structure concepts, whatever we have learned previously. So I'm going to start this part first, and then we'll come back to other chapters. So a basic resonator already you learned in circuit theory. Tank circuit using resistor, capacitor, and inductor. So we may have mechanical resonance, also electrical resonance. But in this class, we are mostly going to discuss about uh, electrical resonances, and that also at microwave frequency. Also, in general, then what is a resonator? It generates vibration of a specific frequency or pick out specific frequencies from a complex vibration containing many frequencies. So this is the general definition. It holds for mechanical resonators as well as electrical resonators. And when we are analyzing any microwave resonator, so of course we will do it with respect to electric field and magnetic field. And we'll call them electromagnetic resonators. So these electromagnetic resonators are very similar in concept what we learned in circuit theory. For RLC resonators. And here I am showing one example. This is the RLC resonator, and right side here it is actually a filter utilizing microstrip line resonators. So if you look carefully, you can see some lines here. So this line, each of them are resonators at microwave frequency, and it is actually a half wavelength resonator. That means that the resonant frequency, its electrical length is 180 degree or lambda g by 2, and both of these two ends are open circuited, and it is implemented in microstrip line technology. So here actually I am showing the top view. It's a gold plated copper microstrip line, and bottom side we have the ground plane. Sorry. So in this example, then we have 1, 2, 3 resonators, and left hand side it is actually the 50 microstrip line port. Rightmost side it is port 2, and we can connect it to some SMA connectors. Then if you measure it by using a vector network analyzer, the response looks like a bandpass filter. So it is actually a bandpass filter at microwave frequencies. Other than filters, there are many other applications like oscillators. So again, I will refer to your analog circuit class. Then you have learned about different types of resonators, and in almost all the resonators, you might have seen that there is a tank circuit which determines the resonant frequency. Now, the purity of resonance, or when I am using it as a RF source, then it should provide just a single frequency, but practically it does not happen. So then how pure this source is, or how it spreads over frequency, that depends on the quality factor of the tank circuit. So you know already that the quality factor of the tank circuit should be as high as possible. Then we will have a pure resonance at a single frequency. So here also, when we design RF source, in some of we have two approaches. In one approach, actually, we use resonator to determine the frequency. Second example, frequency meter. In lab, we actually use this technique to measure frequency of, let's say, unknown source, what it is generating. Then tuned amplifier and antennas. For the antennas, we have again two different categories. One category is based on traveling wave. Examples, there are many actually. Vivaldi antenna, horn antenna, and the second category, they are based on resonant circuits. So basically resonators. It's a leaky resonator because a part is coming out in the form of radiation. So that is a loss to circuit. So that's why we call it leaky resonators. So we have then many applications at microwave frequencies, and then we have to learn how we characterize a resonator. Then depending on application, we can choose an appropriate resonator. For example, when we are designing a filter, we don't want any loss inside the resonator. Our quality factor should be as high as possible. But when we are designing antenna, we want loss. But this loss is not the conductor loss, dielectric loss, or surface wave loss. This loss is radiation loss. So from circuit point of view, it is actually a loss. The quality factor should be low. So then we are actually calling this term so many times, quality factor. What is it? We use the same definition here also. So quality factor at any given frequency, angular frequency omega, that is equal to omega into maximum energy stored inside the resonator divided by power loss. So it is proportional then to the stored energy by power loss. So it has a direct relationship with the power loss. If loss increases, then quality factor decreases. Well, then at resonance, so the first expression, it is the general expression, quality factor at any given frequency. Now, if we can define quality factor at resonance also, then the frequency is given, it is the resonant frequency. So then at resonance, Q, that is equal to twice pi into energy stored divided by energy dissipated per cycle. So basically, it is related to the time period. So if the resonant frequency is given as Fr, then we can represent it in terms of Fr, that is twice pi Fr into energy stored divided by power loss. So energy dissipated per cycle, that is actually the power loss. Well, so just for information, quality factor we define not just for a resonator. In fact, we can define the quality factor for any circuit components, like let's say filter. What is the quality factor of a low pass filter, or what is the quality factor of a band pass filter? So in that case, what we will do, we consider a closed volume which holds this circuit component. And inside that closed volume, we consider then what is the energy stored and power loss from that closed volume. So quality factor, actually it is easier to measure at microwave frequencies. That's why we always try to express it in terms of quality factor. Okay, so we will be taking this term many times. So then for now, what is the conclusion? Then quality factor not just for resonator, you can also define for any circuit component. Well, so quality factor, of course, then it will depend on different guiding structures, substrate parameters, basically the electrical parameters related to sigma, its dielectric constant, and other things. Because other things means, let's say you are designing a microstrip line. So please switch off your microphone. So every day I have to repeat it. Please switch off your microphone. Otherwise, it's too noisy for me. Anyway, coming back. Well, now already we learned about waveguide structure, then printed circuit board guiding structures. Now, if I design a resonator in waveguide technology, we have lower loss. So obviously the quality factor we are expecting, it will be much higher compared to in general printed circuit board technology. Now, in printed circuit board technology again, let's say we are dealing with a microstrip line resonator, then we know what are the sources of loss. Shashwat Banerjee and others, please switch off your microphone. Well, so we were discussing about microstrip line. Now we know what are the sources of microstrip line: conductor loss, dielectric loss, surface wave loss, and radiation loss. Now, if I change the operating frequency, but let's say the substrate parameters are fixed, we are not changing its thickness, we are not changing its epsilon r and other things. Now, if I design a microstrip line resonator at 2.4 gigahertz and another one at 24 gigahertz, so what do you expect? At higher frequencies, 24 gigahertz, conductor loss increases because skin depth decreases, surface resistance increases. So conductor loss increases. Dielectric loss will also increase. Surface wave loss will also increase because your effective substrate thickness in comparison to the operating wavelength that is increasing, then power lost into surface wave that also increases. So in general, then we can conclude that if we go up in frequency scale, quality factor decreases. What are the information we have from quality factor? Bandwidth related to its center frequency. So we need to discuss this point in details. So before that, we have to learn some parameters. What are the different quality factors? Then we'll come back to this point, bandwidth information, how we can extract it. Well, and the second point, rates of energy loss related to stored energy. Well, at lower frequencies, we defined many terms like overdamped case, underdamped case, critically damped case. Usually, we don't use these terms frequently at microwave frequencies, but the same definition also holds at microwave frequencies, but they are difficult because the quality factor we don't consider in this range. It should be much higher. We can't tolerate that much of loss. Well, but we can have some discussions on it. Sorry. If I ask you to plot this overdamped case, underdamped case, or critically damped case in Smith chart, then how it will look. So for critically damped case, I would suggest you go through circuit theory book again, what you learned there, and also if it is again mentioned in DM Pojar's book. For critically coupled case, actually R is equal to Z naught if we consider a RLC circuit. So if R is equal to Z naught, then it corresponds to a circle which passes through the center of the Smith chart. And that actually this circle that are equal to in Smith chart we consider the normalized value. So we have to consider then small r equal to 1. That defines the critically coupled case, and then the left hand side outside of this circle, that is the overcoupled, and inside that is the undercoupled scenario. These expressions, quality factor for different components, you learned in circuit theory. Now I'll directly go to the definition of different types of quality factors. So we have three different quality factors and we have to understand them properly. If you don't, then we can't go for any circuit analysis. So these three quality factors are the unloaded quality factor, loaded quality factor, and external quality factor. I'm sure that you are familiar with these terms, but now we are going to understand what is the physical concept behind it. The definition of quality factor already we know. Now, when we are determining the quality factor of any given resonator, if the resonator is isolated from rest of the world, so we don't have any sort of perturbation on the resonator. So as if we are assuming the resonator is isolated from rest of the world. In that case, if you calculate the quality factor, we call it unloaded quality factor, represented by QUL, or in some books it is QU. So the main point is that here we don't have any coupling or any connection with other components. It is the isolated resonator, and it is the property of that resonator or the characteristics of that resonator. Now, practically, we are going to connect this resonator in circuit applications. So the moment you are introducing it to some circuit, we have some obvious coupling between the resonator and maybe your cord or some other parts of your circuit. So now, if you measure the quality factor, what will happen? Okay, first of all, we call it loaded quality factor. And now since you are introducing it in the circuit, so we have some loss. So this loss is the power lost into your circuit. So some power your circuit also taking up from the resonator. So that's why what we expect that Q loaded or QL, it is always lower than QUL, unloaded quality factor. Well, now how the resonator it is interacting with the circuit, that we represent in terms of external quality factors. So it is basically represents the loss into source or load. Here I'm showing one example, right hand side. If you see, we have a RLC resonator. Then RLC, it's a series resonator circuit, and the only source of power loss for the resonator is R. It is a part of the resonator. So when we are going to determine the unloaded quality factor, we have to consider only RLC, as if it is isolated from rest of the circuit and sitting in free space, let's say. So if I now calculate the unloaded quality factor using its definition, it comes out that it is equal to omega naught L by R, or equal to, we can also express in terms of the capacitor, equal to 1 by omega naught RC. This is for the resonator only. Now we are connecting the source from left hand side, a load RL from right hand side. Now here for this example, I am showing, let's say, one ideal voltage source. Ideal voltage source means its internal resistance is 0. So if the internal resistance is 0, no power is lost into your source. Then when I connect the circuit, then basically the power lost, it is in RL. So now we have one more additional source of loss, RL. Now if I calculate them overall quality factor, where instead of R we have to take then R plus RL, we will call it loaded quality factor, QL. Then what is external quality factor? So it represents the power lost into your external load or source. So instead of ideal voltage source at RF frequencies, usually internal resistance of RF source is 50 ohm. So we also have a loss in source because it has some R part. right? So now from the resonator, how much power is lost into your circuit? So we are separating the RL part. We are not considering R now. Then that term we call the external quality factor, QE. That is equal to omega naught into L by RL, no R. Or in terms of or for parallel resonator circuit, it is RL by omega naught into L. Well, so we have a relationship from energy conservation. You know this one. 1 by Q loaded, that is equal to 1 by Q external plus 1 by Q unloaded. So it says it is derived from that actually. So the total power, whatever we have inside the circuit, a part is lost inside the resonator and the remaining part lost in your load or source. Now, what about the unloaded quality factor? If I consider a microstrip line resonator, let's say, not this RLC. So for microstrip line resonator, individual loss we can represent in terms of quality factor. So how we will be defining those losses? For a microstrip line, let's say we have conductor loss, dielectric loss, then loss due to radiation of surface wave, we represent by Q1. So we will consider the individual component of loss, and that will represent in terms of the quality factor. So if I go back to this definition, it is twice by FR into energy stored by power loss. So energy stored, it remains same. Now power loss we will consider individually. What is the power loss due to dielectric loss? What is the power loss due to conductor loss, and so on. So the corresponding quality factors, then for the conductor loss we call QC, dielectric loss QD, and surface wave and radiation we put them together and represented by QR. So again from energy conservation we have 1 by QUL, that is equal to 1 by QC plus 1 by QD plus 1 by Q1. So we have to then keep the loss minimum to improve unloaded quality factor. Okay. Some relationships, 3 dB bandwidth of a resonator. So 3 dB bandwidth of a resonator, what it means, we can define it in different way. In circuit theory, you defined it in terms of Z in variation, RLC. Okay, better let me use my white. Then you can see the whiteboard. Let us first consider one RLC parallel resonator circuit. So we have capacitor, inductor, and one resistance. And from here we are looking R. Now if I let's say it can be normalized or also with respect to frequency and versus the magnitude. Now for a parallel resonator at the resonant frequency, input impedance is maximum. So this corresponds to your resonance frequency omega naught. Since we have R, so the maximum value is R. If we don't have any R, in that case it goes to infinity. Now 3 dB bandwidth here, So this one we call delta omega 3 dB, and at this point then it is 0.707 times of R. That's how we define for a parallel resonator case. Now, in place of parallel resonator, if we have a series resonator, so let us consider a series resonator then, R, L, C, and again this is Z in. So for this case, if I plot omega versus Z in, then at the series resonance frequency, it is minimum and it corresponds to your value R. What about the bandwidth then? Here R by 0.707, and this is the 3 dB bandwidth, delta omega. Now for these resonators, then you learn that we use a relationship with the quality factor, which is omega naught by delta omega. This is the resonance frequency. So let me omega naught divided by delta omega 3 dB, that is equal to quality factor. Now the question is, which one is this? Unloaded quality factor, the loaded quality factor, or the external quality factor? We are considering here for a resonator only, right? Not the power lost into the external load. So there is no role of external quality factor. But since we are using it in the circuit, so this is the Q loaded. So this important part you have to remember. Sometimes it is not mentioned in book. So here it is Q loaded, not QUL. Well, so coming back here, we can also represent in terms of F, same definition, ratio remains same. Some other terms like damping ratio or attenuation constant. Well, so usually we don't use this sort of terms, damping ratio, attenuation constant, which are actually popular at lower frequencies. Bhatkalagara, Hariharan, you are switching on your microphone sometimes, so we can monitor from here. So if I see it second time, I am going to throw you out from my class. So in this example, you can see that we are using a microstrip line resonator. So this is just to explain the different quality factors again, and why I am putting so much importance of different quality factors, because you see there will be many phenomena which are related to different quality factors. And let me relate it to a microstrip line scenario. We have a half wavelength microstrip line. So this is basically, I am showing the top view, and its length from left to right. So let me represent it by arrow. This is half wavelength. lambda g by 2 at the resonant frequency. Or in terms of electrical length, it is 180 degree. Now I'm using the left hand side port P1 and port P2, which are 50 ohm line. So this port P1, it corresponds to 50 ohm. Right hand side, that also corresponds to 50 ohm, and the corresponding microstrip line also, this width left and right, that corresponds to 50 ohm. So basically this width, it is also 50 ohm. Now the middle part, it may have 50 ohm, it may not have 50 ohm. So in this case, then how we define the quality factor? If we take out the microstrip line and find out what are the losses, you know, dielectric loss, conductor loss, and surface wave and radiation loss from full wave simulator, and calculate the corresponding quality factor, then we call that unloaded quality factor. Now let us put it in the circuit like this. So if I use the simulator again, considering all the losses, then the corresponding S parameter response, so transmission coefficient, basically I am plotting the transmission coefficient along X, it is frequency, and along Y, it is the magnitude of transmission coefficient. You can also call it S21, right? Magnitude of S21. Then at some point it peaks. Now maximum possible value is 1. So it may not be 1. That depends on the coupling, how it is coupled to your feed line. With this left and right, we call them feed line. They are used to excite the resonator. So if we have a graph like this from full wave simulation, then we can call this one as the resonant frequency. So you can use a full wave simulator to find out the resonant frequency of any resonator. It will give you actually an approximate value. Why? This point also you should note it down. Why it is an approximate value? Because you see, when it is isolated from rest of the world, then if I can measure the resonant frequency, that is the actual resonant frequency. But the moment I put it here in the circuit, then we have the coupling. Basically, you are disturbing the resonator. And if you are disturbing the resonator, its resonance frequency obviously will change. So in this method, just looking at the peak of S21 or the peak of transmission coefficient, that won't give you accurate value of resonant frequency. So later we are coming to that point again, how to determine resonant frequency accurately by using a full accelerator. So for now, you see this gap, it determines the coupling. You can see a small gap between the left hand 50 ohm line and the resonator, same right hand side 50 ohm line and the resonator. So this gap determines the coupling. That means how much power lost into your port or external circuit. If I decrease the gap, so here coupling occurs through electric and magnetic field. That depends on different situation how we are going to excite it. So in general, it is transferring energy through electric and magnetic field. Well, if I decrease this gap, then coupling will increase. Now I can calculate what is the quality factor from this curve. Same technique. It's note down what is the peak value. Come 3 dB down and check what is your delta F. So F naught by delta F, that will give you loaded quality factor, QL. So now if I decrease the gap, what will happen? More energy transferred to source or load. Now in the second case, then for decreasing gap, if I plot the same thing, then how the response looks like this. Okay, so this one, this is for small gap. And what we see that overall loaded quality factor will decrease. So you see, then how you are coupling power to external circuit, that determines the bandwidth of the 3 dB bandwidth. So that means it can't be unloaded quality factor. Unloaded quality factor, it is the characteristics of the resonator, and that is fixed. So this loaded quality factor, it also depends on the input and output coupling. Now, what is external quality factor? Then the power which is lost into your port 1 and port 2, we have to take that into account, and that is represented by Q external. And if you know any two of them, then you can use this formula and calculate the third remaining one. So practically it is easier to determine QL from the bandwidth. Q external also we have some technique. Then from that you can calculate QUL, unloaded quality factor. Otherwise, if it is isolated in from rest of the world, then how we can excite it and how we can measure it, unloaded quality factor. So that's why usually directly we can't measure the unloaded quality factor, but we can measure external quality factor and the loaded quality factor, and from that we can conclude. Well, I don't think it has been covered in your circuit theory. I am also not going for the derivation of this expression. So the thing is that if you can determine the expression for Z in as seen by your port, look into the resonator and calculate what is the Z in. If you can do that, then QL, that is equal to susceptance divided by conductance. So it is the part of your input impedance. So then if we have the mathematical expression, then we can find out loaded quality factor also. Well, insertion loss. What is insertion loss? Basically, if S21, if I represent in decibel scale, we have a negative number. Why negative? Because the maximum possible value of S21 is 1. If I take log 10, it becomes 0. Then always it is less than 1 because of some loss. So it is a negative number. Now let's say S21 is minus 3 or some other value, maybe minus 4 dB. Then the insertion loss we call plus 4 dB. So it is negative of S21 in dB. Whenever we say loss, always we represent by a positive quantity. Then negative of S2 magnitude of S21 in dB, we call the insertion loss. Well, it is directly related to then the quality factor of a resonator, as we explained. Well, so before coming to next part, transmission line resonator, let us take a few questions, because conceptually this part is very important. And then we'll come to the next part. You can switch on your microphone and ask me questions. Do you have any question till this point?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you explain again why the width of the graph was increasing for a smaller gap?
For a smaller gap, you have more power lost to your circuit, to your feed line. Yes or no? You agree?
Yes, sir.
So if that is the case, then your quality factor will decrease, loaded quality factor. Because loss is increasing.
Yeah.
Understood? Yes. So actually that phenomena I will see from full wave simulator. I was just going in opposite direction. In some book, I have seen they wrote it unloaded quality factor, which is wrong in circuit theory book. It is the loaded quality factor. You follow DM Pojar's book. It's given nicely. So I wanted to point out that part. So it is related to then quality QL, not unloaded. Unloaded, it is the characteristics of a resonator that can't change. That will change if you change the resonator or the resonant frequency. Any other question?
So,
Q external, yes.
sir, could you again
Yes.
explain how to see the Q factor, means the damping and Smith chart?
Well, that actually means not very popular at microwave frequencies. Just in case, let's say if you want to use Smith chart for those cases, then how it will look. So I need to then show some slides which I don't have. In DM Pojar's book, you go to chapter 6, it is written there. For critically damped case, what about the real part of input impedance? In circuit theory, you learn. Do you remember that? Do you remember critically damping, then under damped case, over damped case?
Yes, sir.
Well, so for critically damped case, the real part it becomes equal to Z naught, the characteristics impedance. So if that is the scenario, then if we go to Smith chart, we have to normalize it, right? So then R becomes equal to 1, small r equal to 1. So that corresponds to a circle which passes through the center of the Smith chart, right? Now you consider over damped, under damped case. So in one case R is more than Z naught, another case R is less than Z naught. So if that is the scenario, then for one set, then we have solutions outside R equal to 1 circle. For another case, it is inside R equal to 1 circle.
Okay,
Excuse
sir.
me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how do we calculate the quality factor? The Q external, can you explain again? Like the Q loaded, I understood, and Q unloaded.
Q external, I did not explain actually. If you are interested, I can explain it. You have to listen to it carefully. Usually, it is not covered in UG actually. Just a concept is given. Well,
Okay.
you can see my slide. Let me explain it then. Actually, at resonant frequency, what is the angle of Z in, let's say?
45 degrees.
Hmm?
45 degrees.
From where you get that magic figure 45 degree?
Uh,
Zero,
sorry,
yes,
sorry.
zero.
0, 0, 0. Sorry.
So it crosses zero, right? X-axis. That is true for both series and parallel resonator. Now, if you go to 3 dB point, actually at that point, it is 90 degree up. So left side, let's say if it is plus 90, right side it will be minus 90. If left side it is minus 90, it is plus 90, opposite. So what we can do, we can note down S11, its angular variation instead of Z in. Okay, it is directly related to reflection coefficient also, Z in, that you know already. So if you can use a full wave simulator and plot angle of S11. Now at the resonant frequency, you see what is the angle. You go left side 90 degree, right side another 90 degree, and then calculate the bandwidth, and that will give you the external quality factor. So loaded quality factor is related to your S21, and external quality factor is related to your S11. So let me draw it better. This is versus frequency, and now it is not magnitude. This angle of S11 now, since it is related to Z-in. Well, now let's say we have some variation like this. So what I plotted here, it is the angle of S11. Now intentionally, I did not put it at 0. You see, it is crossing 0 somewhere else. Your resonance frequency is here. What's going on? Well, sorry. Anyway, my PowerPoint is not working. Well, so this vertical line I drew, let's say that is the resonant frequency. Now, look at this resonator carefully. You connected, let's say, port 1 to it and drawing your S11, angle of S11. So, you learned about transmission line. If I move by a distance L, then phase of S11 will change by twice beta L. Do you remember that? So
Yes, sir.
you can't see exactly 0, even though at resonance it is 0. If I plot it in, using a full wave simulator, then you can't see it is crossing 0 because of this offset. If you connect a length of microstrip line at port 1 before the resonator, so we have a change of phase. So it is never 0 then, right? So then what we can do, at the resonant frequency, note down what is the phase. Let's say according to this plot, plus 30 degree. Now go to left side where it changes by 90 degree. So plus 30 plus 90, 120 degree. I note down the point, left hand side. Similarly, right side, 30 to another 90. So it goes to then minus 60. I note down the point. So it now gives F1, F2. This is the bandwidth. Use the same formula. F0 divided by this bandwidth now. Okay, that will give you the external quality factor. Is it clear?
So that
Yes,
small
sir.
gap was because of the feed lines. Beta L caused by the feed lines.
Yes, exactly. And if the feed line length is 0, I can't actually, somehow my PowerPoint is not working. If the feed length is 0, then in that case it should cross 0. But you have to excite the resonator by using a microstrip line. For waveguide, it's section of waveguide, then we can't avoid that change of phase by twice beta L. That will be there.
Yes.
Well, then I can't go to next slide. Let me stop it. Well, this MS stream is clearing problem. Well, now you can see the next slide, transmission line resonator. So we used the same definition of resonance, and now we can have some fixed given length which will show this resonance phenomenon. You can compare this with the string problem which you learned in your class 11 or class 12. If you have a string tied at both ends, then for first resonance, you know that the string length is half wavelength, right? And it is coming from the boundary condition. for the string case, since it is tied at both ends, then the displacement should be 0. And considering displacement is 0, then now I fit a sinusoidal curve on the string, then we can have half of a sinusoidal curve. So we have a standing wave pattern basically on the string. Well, now for transmission line, not only just short, we can have also open circuit. So we can have then different combination, both ends shorted, both ends open circuit, one end shorted and another end open circuited. So we may have then 3 different situations. So let us consider these 3 different situations, and then one by one we'll see what are the fundamental resonant frequency and their harmonics. Well, better let me explain it in white. Again, you compare with the string problem. In the very first example, I am considering a section of transmission line which is open circuited at both ends, and its length, physical length L is given, then the electrical length theta equal to beta into F. What are the boundary conditions? Open circuit. So since open circuit, then current will be 0. So from boundary conditions, now if I want to fit a sinusoidal curve over it, then for the first one, I have half of that. It's basically a standing wave pattern where current is 0 at both ends, and that will give me the first resonance. So we call it fundamental resonant frequency. So then for the fundamental resonant frequency F0, L, it should correspond to half wavelength. If I look at the curve, not lambda, better to write down lambda G, guided wavelength. Now, if I keep on increasing frequency, what we see for the next one, we can fit 2 of them. So then the next resonance will appear at some other frequency. Its first harmonics F1, that is equal to twice F0, and here the length is lambda G. What about the next one, F3? 3 half cycle. So it should be thrice F0 and the corresponding 3 into lambda G. So if I design a microstrip line resonator at 1 gigahertz, then it will also support resonances at 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So we can actually separate the even order and the odd order resonances. For 1 gigahertz, 3, 5, 7, we will call the odd harmonics. 2, 4, 6, and so on, we will call the even harmonic. So what we see then, a half wavelength resonator, when both ends are open circuited, it supports all the harmonics, even as well as odd. Well, in this example, I considered the current variation. Now, what about voltage variation? So let us consider for the F0 scenario, voltage variation will be just opposite. Open circuited, then there might be a voltage maxima, left side, right side, and same thing will go on. But the next part we have to fit 2 half of sinusoidal curve. Now, what about short circuited? I have the same transmission line section, but now I'm shorting it. Otherwise, its lengths remain same. So since it is short circuited, now we have current maximum. So this is for the current, and for voltage, it is short circuited. So at the end, voltage is 0. So we see then the resonant frequency remains same because L is equal to lambda G by 2 again. What about the second resonance? You keep on continuing. For the voltage, now we have to fit two of them. So after first, now we have the second one at twice F naught. Similarly, if you keep on going, then the thrice one. So what we see, then the resonant frequency is not changing, and this one also supports all the harmonics. So in general, then we can comment that a half wavelength resonator resonator supports both even and odd harmonics. Okay, this part is clear. Now let us consider a different situation. One part shorted, another part open. Then what we can see. So let's say the same transmission line, but one end shorted, one end open. Now if I draw current again, current will be maxima at the short end, minima at the open end. So we see then only 1/4 of the sinusoidal wave we can fit. So this is for current. What about the voltage? It is just opposite. At the shorted end, it is 0. Open end, it is highest. Then the resonance frequencies, how it varies. For the F naught, L, it corresponds to now quarter wavelength, lambda G by 4. So L is equal to lambda G by 4, or the electrical length is 90 degrees. So if I compare this scenario with the previous case, then what we see, if the physical length remains same, let's say at 1 gigahertz, it is 5 centimeter. Now, if one end shorted, one end open, the same length 5 centimeter microstrip line will now resonate at 500 megahertz. Resonant frequency decreases by a factor of 2 because now we have a quarter wavelength resonator. And then what about the next harmonic? Let us consider current again. So right side maximum, here it is 0. In that case, next curve which I can fit here, it is looking like this. So then F1, what is the relationship with F naught? Now look carefully for the next harmonic. So we have till this point 1/4 wavelength, this point another quarter, and then this one. So L basically corresponds to 3 lambda G by 4. or the electrical length is 270 degrees. Similarly for F2, it is 5 lambda t by 5 lambda t by 4. So what we see then, if the first resonator fundamental resonant frequency is 500 megahertz, sorry, the first harmonic will appear at 1.5 gigahertz, 3 times of that. The next one, 5 times of that, 2.5 gigahertz, and so on. So in other words, we can then comment that a quarter wave resonator supports quantity odd harmonic. Not even. So this is one important observation. Well, we can avoid some of the harmonics, and also we can obtain miniaturization. So miniaturization is important at lower frequencies, but if we go to higher frequencies, millimeter wave frequencies, let's say, we don't want a miniaturization as such, because already the resonator length is very small. So theoretically, if a 5 centimeter line resonates at 1 gigahertz, at 10 gigahertz, it should be 5 by 10, 0.5, that means 5 millimeter. If I go to 100 gigahertz, 0.5 millimeter. Okay. Now, using this then quarter wave resonator, we can obtain miniaturization, but at the cost of something. So always we gain something at the cost of something. So here, where we lose, what we lose, again we can use that thumb rule. Since overall volume is decreasing, length is decreasing, so overall volume is decreasing, then loss will increase. Power handling capability will decrease. So in other words, we can say that in the same PCB board, at the same frequency, if I design two resonators, one half wavelength resonator and the second one quarter wavelength resonator, then half wavelength resonator requires twice of the length compared to quarter wave resonator, but it will have high quality factor. That is important. So particularly when we design, let's say, oscillator or filter where we don't want loss, in those cases, then we have to go for some optimization or trade-off better. If you want to decrease loss, if you want to put utmost importance on loss, then go for half wavelength. Otherwise, if miniaturization is the most important point, then you go for quarter wavelength resonator. Okay, I'm coming back again.
So can you repeat it again? Why half wavelength will have greater quality factor?
It is using the thumb rule, which we discussed previously. If I increase the volume, so previously we discussed that for a guiding structure, if I decrease cross section, then the corresponding electric and magnetic field value will increase. If that increases, then your metal loss, dielectric loss will increase. So it was like a thumb rule then. If I decrease cross section, loss will increase. Same thing holds for a volume. If I decrease the volume of a resonator, loss will increase. So for a quarter wavelength resonator, since the length is half of the half wavelength resonator, the loss will be more. If loss is more, then quality factor is low. If I go back to the definition of quality factor, so if loss increases, quality factor will decrease. Here I'm showing the same thing, this voltage variation, current variation, etc. So only one parameter I introduced here, Y in or Z in. What about that? Well, let us consider the first case. So in the first example, what I drew actually, open end. So current should be 0. So it shows the current variation over this. Now at this end, left or right end, current is 0. Voltage maximum. What about Z in? Z in is infinite. That means Y in equal to 0. Now what about this quarter wavelength? This side is shorted, Zn is 0. Now if I look from here, right side into your resonator, voltage is maximum, current is 0. So again the same thing, Z in is infinite, Y in equal to 0. So this point actually at low frequency in circuit theory, how did you find out resonant frequency? You put imaginary part equal to 0, and from that you found an expression for resonant frequency, right? By putting imaginary part equal to 0. So how we find the resonant frequency for a microwave resonator? So in this case, there are several methods. So one of the popular method is that you calculate what is your Z in and put that condition, and from that you derive the expressions for your resonant condition. Well, then actually we are going back to the formula which we learned for a transmission line, Z in equal to Z naught into ZL plus JZ naught, this formula for alpha equal to 0, lossless signal. So here I put Z in is infinite or Y in equal to 0, and from that we found one expression for omega. Where is omega? In this here, it's inside beta L. Beta is 2 pi by lambda. So lambda you can represent in terms of frequency. So then if I equate Y in equal to 0, from this I can find an expression for F, right? From this expression. And if it is a lossy resonator, so we have to use this expression. Okay. Then we have some other conditions. Resonance condition for shorted load Z in equal to 0. For open circuit, Z in is infinite or Y in equal to 0. And the quality factor for quality factor of the resonator's Q, that is equal to beta by twice alpha if it is lossy. Beta by twice alpha. Well, here actually I am showing the different modes which we already discussed. It is a half wavelength left hand side, and we have all the harmonics, and right hand side it is a quarter wavelength resonator, one end shorted, one end open circuited, and we have only the odd harmonic. Well, you see in microstrip line, a half wavelength resonator, how it will look? It's a simply straight line of length lambda g by 2. Now for miniaturization, sometimes we use different shapes. As I discussed that we don't want to use quarter wavelength to keep the unloaded quality factor high. So this is one example of miniaturization. What they did, if you look here, this is the top view actually. The end part they bend it in this form, but it is actually a half wavelength resonator. And from the distribution you can see this is the JS on strip. You can do it in HFSS. So in the middle part we have current maxima, and at the ends it's blue. That means it's minimum actually. We have a sinusoidal variation of JS on the strip. Well, a short numerical example. A 50 ohm microstrip line resonator of length lambda g by 2. Compute the physical length and quality factor at 5 GHz. Substrate thickness is given substrate, all specifications are given. So here basically we have to use the formula which we did not derive, but we just mentioned closed form expressions for different losses, alpha C, alpha D, and so on. So first we find out what is the resonant length. It is a half wavelength resonator, lambda g by 2. So you calculate then lambda g. Well, how to calculate lambda g for microstrip line? It is lambda naught. Lambda g is equal to lambda naught by square root of epsilon e. If you want to do it correctly, if you recall, in DM Pojar's book, one expression is given for epsilon e, epsilon effective. So you can use that, and for thumb rule for approximate calculation, you can put also epsilon equal to epsilon r. Well, here actually we are using that formula, closed form expression, and from that we calculate it is 22.4 millimeter at 5 gigahertz. So next part is basically straightforward. We have the expressions and just put the values and find then quality factor as beta by twice alpha, which is coming 783 for microstrip line. But practically, it is actually from theoretical calculation. Practically, it is much lower. If you simulate it in Kulik simulator, we can determine what is the quality factor. So what we have seen for microstrip line, typically it is less than 200 or 300. It's quite low. I'm discussing mostly on microstrip. It is popular guide in PCB technology. So some of the examples of different resonator sets for different purposes. A few of them I'm going to discuss, so you should have some idea what people doing actually at millimeter of frequency. Oh, sorry, for practical applications. So the first example is the half wavelength resonator. So if you look from top, you can see the microstrip only, and its length is lambda g by 2. So I gave one example actually in the beginning here. Look at the right hand side filter. We have 3 resonators, half wavelength resonator. Well, so the first example is straightforward. In the second example, they used some impedance steps, and it has some advantages. I'm coming to that. So why I'm calling it impedance step? Because if you go back to the closed form expression given for Z0 in DM Pojar's book, then for a given substrate, if I increase the width of microstrip line, then its characteristic impedance decreases. So then leftmost and rightmost part, it is having a lower characteristic impedance compared to this middle section. So it is a 3-section microstrip line resonator. Now this 3-section microstrip line resonator, if I ask you, can you calculate what is its resonant frequency? It is not looking like a straight one. So it will be different for the same length. What do I mean by same length? Let's say for the first microstrip line, it is 5 centimeter at 1 gigahertz. Now for the second one, from leftmost to rightmost, if I take again 5 centimeter, I won't get resonant frequency as 1 gigahertz. It will be something else. So how to calculate that new one? We use the same condition here which we discussed. So since it's open circuit, leftmost and rightmost, we have to find then what is Y in from that Z in formula, and we can equate it to 0 and express F in terms of the other parameters. So how we do that? Okay, well, I have later, then I will discuss later. Another form, open loop resonator. So basically it's bent to decrease the overall area, occupied area. Another one, it is open loop resonator, but inside intentionally we used one microstrip line open star. So this stepped impedance resonator and this modified open loop resonator, they are popular for designing dual band bandpass filter, or some dual band applications. So where we can control F2 by F1. For a straight microstrip line, F2 by F1 is 2, right? Another form, we call it hairpin resonator, and it's a multi-mode resonator. So it will support many different modes, and it's really complicated here to calculate all the frequencies for different modes. So why we have then different shapes of the resonator? This is for site reduction, then dual band and multi-band operation, and spurious suppression. So basically, spurious suppression here for now you can consider for harmonic suppression. Let's say instead of half wavelength resonator, if I consider quarter wavelength resonator, then we don't have the even order harmonics, right? So we can then let's say you are designing a filter at 1 gigahertz. If I use half wavelength resonator, you know that already we'll be having one more passband at 2 gigahertz. But if I take quarter wave resonator, then the next passband will appear at 3 gigahertz. So we could suppress the conventional passband at 2 gigahertz. Well, let us consider the dual band scenario in details without much mathematical analysis. If you look at the figure, I'm considering 3 different situations. In the first case, it is uniform microstrip line. In the second case, it is a stepped impedance line. Third case also stepped impedance line. But what is the difference? In the second example, case B, I'm calling leftmost and rightmost part, it is wider. So we have low characteristics impedance. And case C, it is again a 3-section transmission line basically, but leftmost and rightmost part now have higher characteristics impedance compared to middle part. Now we can calculate then what are the resonant frequencies, fundamental and the harmonics. Then what we see, well, how we will be calculating? First of all, it's a 3-section, right? Let me draw it here. So we have the first section, let's say. Next. Oh. Okay, let me stop once. Then anyway, let me show it from whiteboard.
So the quality factor and resonant frequencies we have been discussing till now for the half wave and quarter wave, are they the?
That is in general. I gave examples for half wave length or quarter wave length, but the definition, it is in general, it remains same for all.
So is it unloaded or loaded?
Did I use it in circuit? Since I'm considering only the resonator, then it should be unloaded.
Sir, but if it is unloaded, then how will it get excited? Like,
Yes, that is the scenario. So unloaded quality factor we can't determine or we can't measure directly, not determine. Mathematically we can express it. But practically if you want to measure it, then unloaded quality factor we can't directly measure it. So what we can measure Q loaded and Q external, then you put it in that expression and find out what is Q even. Okay.
oh, okay.
Now I'm considering the stepped impedance scenario. So let's say Z1, Z2, Z1, different characteristics impedances. Now, how to determine the resonant condition? Since both ends are open, let us start from one end. So finally here, Z in will be infinite or Y in equal to 0. So better to then express it in terms of Y in. Now, let us consider step by step. Let us consider the first step and here calculate Z in 1. So for Z in 1, then you can calculate it. It is a section of transmission line. Let's say the length is θ1 and for Z2 it is θ2. Then what should be the value of Z in 1? So load is open circuited. For open circuit stuff already we did. It is minus JZ not cos theta. Now for the second circuit, Z in 2. So for Z in 2, we know the formula Z naught into ZL. So in place of ZL, we have now Z in 1 plus Z naught tan theta. Well, instead of Z naught, then I should use tan theta 2. Instead of Z naught, here I am considering now the second middle section. So it should be Z2 divided by Z2 plus Z in 1 tan theta. So Z in 2 done. Now for the third section, here YIN, let's say it is Z in, then similarly you put Z in, and here in place of Z0 we will be having Z1, and in place of Z in 1 now ZL we have now Z in 2 plus JZ1 tan theta 1 and Z1 plus JZ in 2, it is the load now, tan theta 1. So find out what is Y in, put Y in equal to 0 and find out what is the value of theta. So electrical length is determined, electrical length is related to your wavelength, right? You can also express in terms of beta L, whatever you like. So then we can have the resonant condition from this. And if we do that, we'll get the general condition for all the resonances, fundamental and its harmonics. Now we are going to compare case A, B, and C, these three cases. So for case A, we already learned that if the first resonance is at 1 GHz, it will also support the harmonic, all the odd and even harmonics, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So F2 by F1, it is true. And here I am showing it by this black arrow, 2. Okay. Now for the second case, if you solve for F1 and F2, then F2 by F1, it is more than 2. So left hand side and right hand side, if we have low impedance section, then F2 by F1 is more than 2. and f2 by f1 I am representing it by red arrow. So you see it is more than 2. And for the third case, f2 by f1 is less than 2. I am showing it here by this 2 black arrow. So middle average of these frequencies remains the same. Now where we can apply this, if let's say we are designing a filter for dual band application and we need some fixed f2 by f1. We have, for example, mobile phone base station. We have an application at 0.9 gigahertz, another at 1.7. So you take the ratio 1.7 by 0.9, and then we see that we have to use f2 by f1 less than 2 case. We can also go for harmonic suppression. Sometimes it requires that you have to use half wavelength resonator, but the second harmonic should be as far as possible. Then we consider the red arrow case, that is f2 by f1 is more than 2. So these are different applications of stepped impedance resonators. Well, now let me share my slide again. So after putting yn equal to 0, as I discussed here, in this example, actually the characteristics impedances theta 1, theta 2 are little different. So if I put yn equal to 0, then we have the resonant condition. It simplifies to this expression z2 tan theta 1 tan theta 2 divided by z1 equal to 1. So all the combinations of z1, z2 and theta 1, theta 2 which satisfies this equation, at those points we have resonances. Now we can do little simplification. If I put theta 1 is equal to theta 2, then the above expression is simplified to this. f2 by f1 is represented by this ratio, pi by twice tan inverse square root of z2 by z1. This is another resonator. So this one actually we reported. This is almost like for same purpose, but it gives more flexibility if I go for bandpass filter design. Any one of you is interested, it is published in IEEE Transaction Micro MPT 2000. Well, till this point, do you have any question? Let us take a few questions. Otherwise, we will go to website section. You can switch on your microphone and ask me question.
Sir,
Hmm.
sir, if you means in the miniaturized version of the means the one which you showed us, there is a bend in the corners, right? So wouldn't it cause discontinuities and cause radiation?
Yes, that is true. But at micro frequencies, this radiation is not that significant. We simply neglect it because of this bend. Well, if you go to higher frequencies, you have to be careful. Higher means above 30 gigahertz. In fact, above 60 gigahertz, it's really difficult to use any microstrip line based circuit. So we have to take special care. The conventional substrate we can't use anymore. So that's why we have a different form. We call it suspended microstrip line, or something else we need to introduce. If you are doing below 30 gigahertz, you don't have to take care. The radiation is not that significant. Anything else? Any other questions? Well, then next part is waveguide resonator. So same thing applies here. Let us start with the rectangular waveguide section. So we have to take a piece of rectangular waveguide. Now for rectangular waveguide, if I keep both ends open circuited, we have a problem. If it is air inside, so most of the energy will come out in the form of radiation. So that's why we can't use open circuited waveguide, particularly air filled waveguide. Okay, so this point you can note it down. We can't use open-ended rectangular waveguide, then we have high radiation. Basically, all the power will come out. Quality factor is very low. We can't use it as a resonator. Then the only alternative we are left with, that is a closed resonator. Both ends are short circuited. Well, now if it is short circuited at both ends, we use the same logic which we learned for transmission line, and instead of current voltage concept, now we have to use field concept, because for waveguide we know either it will be transverse electric mode or transverse magnetic mode. So from the field concept, if I consider this variation along z direction, along z, then at the ends it is shorted. So if I consider TE scenario, transverse electric, for transverse electric field it is in y direction. Then on the side walls it should be 0, because on the metal surface it is becoming tangential. So on the side walls then electric field should be 0. That is the boundary condition. Now we try to fit sinusoidal curve for standing wave then. So if I now plot the electric field distribution along A or along Z, then how we see a 0 at y equal and a 0 at x equal to 0 and x equal to a for the fundamental mode, and along Z the dimension is given d, then at z equal to 0 and z equal to d, electric field will be 0. That is for the fundamental mode. Well, here we have a problem. It is not straightforward like lambda g by 2. Why? Now we are going in two directions, along x and along d, and you already did the your simulation study 1, and we see that the wavelength it is determined by the dimension of the waveguide, the lambda g I am saying, guided wavelength, frequency, as well as there is one parameter that broadside dimension in the expression of wavelength. You did it in experiment 1. Well, so it also depends on this dimension, so it is not directly equal to lambda g by 2 simply. So then how it is defined, we use that dispersion relationship, and from that we have the resonant frequencies determined as, in general, Ka M N L. So M N L, these are the mode numbers in x, y and z direction. It is square root of m pi by a whole squared plus n pi by b whole squared plus l pi by d whole squared. So what we see, it depends on all the dimensions a, b and d. Now along y, if we don't have any variation, you consider TE10 mode. TE10 mode. For the dominant TE10 mode, along y, the electric field, it is along y and it is perpendicular on top wall and bottom wall. So it is not necessary that it has to be 0, right? So that means we can have a mode with L equal to 0. But what about M and N? M and N, they should be 1. They can't be 0. Because now electric field is becoming parallel to your sidewalls. So tangential electric field must be 0. We have the boundary condition. So then we can find out what is the lowest order resonance by putting the values here for a given dimension. And in all the cases, actually, the fundamental resonant mode is TE101. So we have one half wavelength along Z, another half wavelength along X. Okay, so it is TE101. So put M equal to 1, N equal to 1, N equal to 0, and put the values of A and B. You have then the resonant wave number K. K is the resonant wave number. So if the resonant wave number is given, then how to determine the resonant frequency? So K is 2 pi by lambda basically. In terms of, then if it is 2 pi by lambda, then we can represent it in terms of C. It is C F equal to then C into K by twice pi square root of mu or epsilon r. C into K divided by twice pi into square root of mu or epsilon r. Basically, I am converting C to V. So K by twice pi. Well, that will give the F, and put the value of K there. So we have the resonant frequencies. Here is one example. A rectangular waveguide cavity is made from a piece of WR187 H-band waveguide. Dimensions are given: A 4.755 centimeter, B 2.215 centimeter. Then the cavity is filled with polyethylene. Epsilon r 2.25 and delta is given. Now required resonant frequency is 5 gigahertz. Then need to find out what should be the value of D. A and B is given here. So we are taking a piece of waveguide. Then the broad wall dimension, side wall dimension, it is defined. Only control we have, we can take different length, right? So D basically. So the required D, then you have to calculate. Since all the values are given, we just put it here, and we'll be using with the fundamental mode. If nothing is mentioned, then always we stick to the fundamental resonant or for guiding structure, dominant mode or fundamental mode. Well, so we have to use this expression for resonant wave number and put the values M equal to 1, N equal to 1. Oh, along D it is L. Along D it is L. So L equal to 1, M equal to 1, and B is the height. Along this it is 0. So pi by A whole squared plus pi by D whole squared. So basically what we see that B has no direct effect on the resonant wave number or the resonant frequency, the height, because along this we don't have any electric field variation, right? So if I put it, then now find the corresponding F considering epsilon r value 2.25. So the first for the first TE101, it is coming 2.2 centimeter. Then TE201, it is just double of that, 4.4 centimeter. So what we see here, you see, A height is not that important. A is 4.755, corresponding D length is coming 2.2. Even though we have half wavelength variation along both, along A half wavelength variation, along B also half wavelength variation. But what we see, A dimension and D dimension, they are different. So along A and along D, wavelengths are different. It can happen for rectangular waveguide. So this point you should remember. For a waveguide, then along X and along Z, it can have different wavelength. It has to be half wavelength. That is fixed, because we have on the side walls we have electric tangential electric field 0. So it has to be half wavelength. So, but after calculating what we see, the dimensions are different. So the wavelengths are different. Well, now we learned so many points. Based on that, if I compare the quality factors, a rectangular waveguide is supposed to provide higher quality factor compared to PCB technology in general, even though I considered here microstrip line. What is the reason? Any one of you can switch on MIC and tell me what is the reason why rectangular waveguide always has higher quality factor compared to microstrip
Sir,
line?
is it due to that the fact that rectangular waveguides have a higher power handling capacity?
No, power handling capacity, nothing has to do with this. That is how much maximum power you can apply. It is related to loss.
We have much lower losses in the rectangular waveguide compared to
Yes,
microstrip.
yes, that is one line answer. Can you little elaborate? If I give you 2 marks for this, obviously I don't want one sentence answer from you. Of course,
Sir,
that is even, but why?
so in microstrip line, we also have radiation and surface wave losses, which are
Yes,
which are comparatively higher. Whereas in
yes,
rectangular waveguide, we have conductor and dielectric losses only.
yes. And in most of the cases, that's why we use air field rectangular waveguide. So even you don't have the
Dielectric loss.
dielectric loss. That is true. And another important point, usually in book you will see they don't mention, but that is also true. What about volume?
So the volume is high, so according to the thumb rule, losses will be low.
Yes. So you understood then the JS, induced JS, that is much higher in microstrip line. And conductor loss, it is proportional to square of current, right? So loss then for microstrip line, it's very high compared to this. So that's why you see I gave you some numerical example. Q unloaded, it can be more than 5,000 even for a rectangular waveguide. It can be easily more than 5,000. But for microstrip line, what we have seen, it is less than 300, even at 1 gigahertz. If I increase the frequency, it will be less. At 30 gigahertz, it can be just 50, 60 like that. In fact, for rectangular waveguide, if I use some points which I'm going to discuss, then it can be made more than 50,000, which is not possible in other technology, unless you are using superconductor. More than 50,000. So we have a paper actually on it, studies of unloaded quality factor for different structure. Anyway, so then how to improve the unloaded quality factor of a resonator? This is important for the filter applications like filter, then oscillator, not for even for antenna also, because for antenna we want loss in the form of radiation, but on the antenna structure itself we have dielectric metal, so we have this metal loss, dielectric loss, okay, and that is a lost. We can't, it is a wastage of power, we can't utilize them. For antenna we want loss, but that is in the form of radiation only. Well, so in general then, how to improve unloaded quality factor of a resonator? First point, you have to minimize loss. Okay, so for example, there are different substrate materials are available. Use a substrate materials for which loss tangent is small. Loss tangent, it directly gives an idea. about dielectric loss. So lower loss tangent means lower loss. Leakage you have to minimize. So one thing, leakage can be surface wave. So thickness you have to choose appropriately. Substrate thickness. Well, next, bigger volume. So it actually depends on the shape of your resonator. We discussed about different shapes. Well, instead of microstrip line, you can go for CPW and other structures if required, and you can study actually where you are getting lower loss. So from these, if I ask you, let's say for rectangular waveguide, TE101 mode and TE201 mode. Between these two modes, which mode will have higher quality factor, unloaded quality factor? One of you switch on and tell me, and why. We have two different modes. Resonance frequency is same, let's say 5 GHz. In one case, we are using TE201 mode. Second case, 101 mode. So in which case we have higher quality factor? You already know the answer, we discussed. It is related to the second point. Which mode will have lower quality factor? Look at this example and comment. Answer is also here. L equal to 1, L equal to 2.
The second one, because the volume increases, so losses decrease.
Exactly. So you see, if I take this resonator length 2.2, we are having TE101 mode at 5 GHz. Now for this one, TE201 mode, the length, it is 4.4 centimeter. So that means you are increasing the volume by 2 times. So then, in general, if volume you can increase, you can improve the quality factor. This is like a thumb rule for the same material, obviously. If you change material, then everything will change. So then we can comment that higher order modes have higher quality factor, right? A general comment we can make, higher order mode have higher quality factor. Next, this point we discussed, that use some dielectric material with loss, a low loss tangent value, then we have lower dielectric loss. Choose a proper dimension to avoid radiation and surface wave loss. We also discussed this. And polish the surface, yeah, that is important. We discussed about surface roughness. When the surface roughness, typically its RMS value is comparable to skin depth, then suddenly loss increases. So as smooth as possible to have higher unloaded quality factor. Next part is dielectric. So next day, tomorrow actually we'll discuss about this in short. So till this point, if you have any question, you can switch on your microphone and ask me. Do you have any question till this point?
So like in the previous example, like if for the solved question, for a given dielectric, for a given waveguide, it has fixed dimensions, right?
Yes.
So like D will be constant, small, the dimension will be constant.
No, D is the length actually. You look at this figure. So A and B is given. If you use W190, for example, for X band application, then A, you know, it is 0.9 inch, B is 0.4 inch, that is given. So I'm just using a section of that. Now you have control over D, length. Then we'll be putting 2 metal plates on it.
So the different values of D will support different modes. Okay.
Different modes, and also for the fundamental mode, you have to tune D according to this formula. So it is not resonant frequency, it is actually the expression for resonant wavelengths, from which you have to find resonant frequencies, wave number.
Sir? Sir, you had given the example to find external quality factor using S11 angle. Sir, but in the slides which you told us first, you wrote the external quality factor to be for a series resonator omega L by RL,
Yes,
which was a
yes.
load resistance. So how was it
Yes.
related?
Yeah, what is external quality factor? Definition, that how much power this resonator is losing into your external circuit. That is the definition. So basically it is related to the input impedance, then Z in, right? If you know the load value RL or RF source when you are connecting, you know what is the internal resistance. Now for the resonator, if you want to calculate, then you have to find Z in. Z in is related to gamma reflection coefficient, right? So we are using that back procedure. In full wave simulator, it is easier because if you can now want to do it for a microstrip line or waveguide resonator, then where is R? Where is L? That is this for a series resonator circuit. It's a low frequency concept. Well, for all the resonators, we can use that representation by parallel resonator or series resonator. But I said previously, when you represent it by using equivalent circuit, or when you calculate test parameters, that is actually the terminal behavior at the pole. You are not describing what is actually happening inside the guiding structure or inside the resonator. So for microwave resonators, since you already did full wave simulations, it directly gives you S parameters, right? So everything we try to obtain in terms of S parameters.
Okay, sir.
Any other question? Okay, thank you all. And don't forget